Unforgettable stories out of Western Jamaica from the scrapbooks of Adrian Freighter. When I came to live in Montego Bay back in the early 1980s, one of the places that I lived was in Mount Salem, which was then the capital of football in St. James. Albeit the community of North Gully, the home of Seba United, could lay the same claim with much justification. At the time, Mount Salem was the home base of former national champions Wadada FC, which at the time featured players like former national captain Mark Ledford, Roddy Brown, Neville Weewar Brown, Alan Creature Aarons, Nampa Brown, Michael Big Mike Harriott, among other extremely gifted players, to include the great Noel Sweetie Smith, who became a legend at Westmoreland's Reno FC. At that time in Mount Salem, which incidentally is also the community from which the legendary striker Paul Teagat Davis emerged, players such as midfield giant Winston Twinnibug Anglin, versatile defender Durant Tatty Brown, and the much feared striker Kenneth Blacks Gaynor, who all went on to represent Jamaica, were basically youngsters trying to make their name in the Community Corner League. One of my favorite pastimes during that era was to go over to Sandfield, the football field behind the Mount Salem Community Centre, in the afternoons to watch pick-up games between players from the community. Some of those games were every bit as exciting as some of the Division 1 games that were being played at Jarrett Park. It was at one of those community pickup games that I first saw Anthony Tuffy Barnes, who subsequently became one of the most skillful players I have ever seen. And at the time, just coming out of Kingston, I was quite familiar with gifted players such as Errol Blakey Blake, Dennis Denden Hutchinson, Lenward Teacher Hyde, and the then senior statesmen of national football like Herbert Dago Gordon, Peter Dove Marston, Derek Sastre Denisa, and of course the great Alan Skillcole. At the time, Tuffy was very small in size, but he was quite speedy, and his deft touches was a joy to behold. He had a way of almost teasing defenders with the ball. They would see the ball close to them, but could not touch it. And if they were foolish enough to stretch for it, magical things would happen. Be it a flick over their head, a chop sending them the wrong way, or one of Tuffy's crisp salad, which he was a master at. I say believe that just as how the great Alan Cole represented Jamaica at age 15, Tuffy could well have done the same if he was a Kingston-based player. After seeing Tuffy for the first time, I asked who he was, and I was told that he was a student at Cornwall College. I believed, based on his size, that he was either at the under 14 or under 16 level. I seriously doubt that he would have started playing the Costa Cup at that time. As the years rolled by, Tuffy not only became a legitimate star in Mount Salem representing Tenement in the Corner League, but he quickly became one of the hottest stars in schoolboy football, lighting up football fields all over the country for Cornwall College. When Tuffy left Cornwall College, he simply walked into the Wadada team, commanding a place alongside established stars like Andrew Tapazuki Sinclair, Mickville Mivy Dillon, Kenneth Blacks Gaynor, and Dave Yarney Brooks, who were all national players or were on their way to the national team. Tuffy quickly made his mark, and it was not surprising that amid the galaxy of stars who were parading their skills in St. James football at the time, Tuffy was named the St. James Player of the Year for 1986, and he was also the MVP for the Division 1 competition. An impressive feat, considering the league featured several players who were on the national team. For the many football fans of the 1980s who might be struggling to settle on their most memorable performance from Tuffy, former St. James FA President Westmore Thomas believed it was his last game before he temporarily migrated to the United States after his 1986 heroics. In that game, he cracked a savage shot towards the goal at the Montego Bay Cricket Club end, which had fans in the stand behind the goal ducking, fearing the ball would have ripped through the net. However, for me, Tuffy's most memorable game was a game between Wadada and Boys Town at the Cornwall College grounds. Tuffy was at his impressive best, touring with a defensive unit which featured former national player and captain Carl Brown, who he bamboozled quite a few times, cutting across the field in full flight. That year, Tuffy got called for the national team, but while he went one or two times, he was clearly not impressed with the setup in Kingston, and from all reports, he showed no real interest and pretty much cut himself out of the training squad. Shortly thereafter, he departed for the United States. When Tuffy returned to Jamaica, the magic was still in his boots, but it was clear he had no interest beside playing for Wadada.
Everyone black say nah, him nah left Salem go no Wadada, cause black Bex him no go Wadada, no, cause black say shouldn't go, black say shouldn't go Wadada.
Black for your teacher.
Yeah, black my teacher.
Yeah, but Salem wasn't around them time. And then you come on Wadada, you never Salem, no.
No, because Salem, because Wadada them don't look out Salem.
Yeah,
look out
yeah,
Salem and then, you understand what I say? And start take up the rems now. So you call it, say Salem still, because you are Salem. You understand what I say?
In my book, he was arguably one of the most talented players who did not play for Jamaica. Albeit he could have walked into the team if he was really interested in representing Jamaica. My one regret is that back in that time, video cameras were not popular because it robbed the current young generation of seeing one of our real great masters at work.
You see, in my time, the first two years, one other. You see, you, Kenneth Gainer.
You have to rock with the one.
I remember playing rap with that Klein and College Rocket Door used to go. I played Rocket Door.
I'm a general.
I'm a general.
Unforgettable stories out of Western Jamaica from the scrapbooks of Adrian Freighter. Before you go, please remember to subscribe.